This is the new American media.
All right, everybody, special thanks and welcome to Agree to Disagree. My name is Brian Engelman here on the TNAM radio network. Special thanks to Rob Troutman from Sports on Tap. You can follow him on Twitter at SOT Podcast. He was on talking about the Cleveland Browns' crazy soap opera-filled past couple of weeks with their front office hirings and firings and the goings-ons. Yeah, I know, now I'm just making stuff up. And special thanks to Zach Barris, lifelong Cleveland sports fan and NBA scout. We talked about the Cleveland Cavaliers' 4-game winning streak, them firing their GM, and we also talked about the Cleveland Browns. So thank you to both of them. Real quick, if you're not following us on Twitter, please do so. We're at American_media_. And if you haven't followed us or liked our page on Facebook, search The New American Media and like our page because we like it when you do that. That's going to be the best way to stay connected with us. And youtube.com/The New American Media. That is, we're almost at, 200,000 video views? And I think that's just fantastic. I really like what's going on there. A lot of new content coming up. But we have kept this next guest waiting a little too long. It's been a crazy Valentine's Day show here. So many guests. And I think we have Blake the Eccentric Wally coming up after Dan Johnson. It's just been an insane day here at the TNAM Radio Network. But hey, it's Valentine's Day. You gotta love it. So anyway, let's get Dan Johnson in. He's the founder of PANDA, and we're going to let him explain what the NDAA is and give you some updates.
Hello?
Dan Johnson, welcome to Agree to Disagree. You're live on the air, sir. How you doing today?
I am not doing too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here and in front of all of our listening audience. I would like to personally apologize to you for keeping you waiting. It has been an insane Valentine's Day with our two sports guests, and I think we have Blake the Eccentric coming up after your segment here. And your time's valuable, as we all are, so I apologize for things running a little behind. But when you do guerrilla radio, you're kind of your own boss, and I have myself to blame, so my hand goes up, and sorry to keep you waiting, good sir.
That's all right. I'm just glad to be on. It's been a little while.
It has. I'm trying to remember that you're a busy human being. And how long has it been since you were out in Los Angeles? Has it almost been a year now? I was trying to think about that the other day. When the last time I hung out with you?
It's been about 6 months because I was out there in July.
Okay.
Last time came down and hung out with you for a little bit. That was back in that was back in July.
Okay. Well, welcome back onto the program. I think you said before that Agree to Disagree was one of the first radio shows that you had done since starting PANDA. So let's just hit reset to everybody that's not familiar with Dan Johnson, not familiar with PANDA, your organization, and the mission statement and purpose of where you're coming from. So maybe just hit reset and start from the scratch and say hello to everybody if you would.
Sure. Welcome all the New American Media radio listeners. It's good to be back on the air. I think last time I was on here, I was talking about an empty chair or something. That was a fun conversation, so I'm sure that's in your archive somewhere.
They all are.
But, my long downward spiral into politics really began back in fall 2011. Average college student, really trying to excel in grades, and I was paying for a bit of college myself, so kind of carrying myself through. And I had stumbled upon Open and was just stumbling around random links one night when I was procrastinating for a test. And as all the younger audience out there listening to the radio, they know Stumble Upon is great for procrastinating anything. And came across, since one of my interests was politics, I came across a video called 63 Senators Betrayed You Today. And I remember thinking, 63 senators betrayed me today? Really? And I remember watching that video.
You're like, really? I couldn't even name 63 senators. Wow, okay. What are they up to?
Well, I mean, back at that time, like, the nation consisted of Congress, which was perfect, and Obama, who was the Antichrist. So my viewpoint was slightly skewed. And when I saw that video, it was about 4 minutes long, I remember watching it, and I remember sitting there afterward, just staring slack-jawed and wide-eyed at my screen. I could not believe this was happening. I'd grown up studying the rise and fall of the Third Reich, big World War II fan, World War II history buff, and I grew up studying the rise and fall of Imperial Japan and how the United States even a little bit detained Japanese Americans during World War II. And I'm staring at something, at actual Senate hearing testimony of a man named Senator Lindsey Graham who's telling me that shut up, I don't get a lawyer, and I'm an enemy combatant. And I couldn't believe it. I think my roommate had to hear me babble on for like 4 minutes. What the heck is going on here? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And after a little bit, I picked my brain up off the floor, put it back together, and decided, I'm going to do some research into this, because if this is true, this is astounding. And it was the NDAA. And I remember doing a little bit of research into it the next month and a half, and when President Obama signed it on December 31st, 2011, I remember thinking, you've got to be kidding me. We've just signed indefinite military detention on the mere word of the government. We've just signed that into law in America. And I don't want to live in a world where my children and the next generation see people with AR-15s on their streets. I don't want to live in a world where the police are militarized and you can't tell the difference between the police and the military. I don't want to live in a world where the military patrol American streets. If anybody's ever seen The Siege with Denzel Washington, it's an excellent, excellent film. And it talks about, and it makes a very strong social commentary on what happens when the military locks down a city. I mean, we saw that in Watertown, Massachusetts. The military locked down that city. They completely blocked it off. No one could get in or out. And they went door to door to door to door to door. They knocked on the doors, and they searched the homes, regardless whether the homeowners wanted to or not. They brought people out at gunpoint. They searched journalists. They searched people in the streets. They picked people up and dropped them in different cities and told them to walk home. This is what happens when the military takes over a city, and I couldn't allow that to happen. And I was always told by my parents growing up that put up or shut up. Either do something about it or be quiet. So I started PANDA, People Against the NDAA, with a couple of friends back in 2012, and we approached our city council. I got handily rejected, and pretty much hands down told, go back to class, go away, little boys. We don't really need you in our big man politics. So we launched PANDA nationwide instead. And it was April 2012. Now we've introduced 18 pieces of state legislation, passed 8 through committee. We're currently have 2 pieces of state legislation introduced this year, and we have 4 cities now that have banned the NDAA and the laws of war that back it entirely in their jurisdiction. 4 cities, Albany, New York, Emmett, Idaho, and 2 cities in Massachusetts that have banned the NDAA, and 60 cities who are currently working on doing the same thing.
What is that phrase? If you can't join them, beat them. It's a little backward here, but it's like go away, little boy. Okay, Bowling Green, Ohio, you're so tough. Let me go nationwide and see what the nation has to say about it. Oh, now the nation's paying attention. Thank you for calling me a little boy. Sometimes it's that little kick.
I took the road less traveled by, and it has made all the difference.
I was just saying something along those lines that there are a couple things on the horizon that may occur. Some big some big moves that may be happening in the not too distant future. Good stuff. But I just relate it back to somebody. I was texting him today, and I said, yeah, well, if that thing happens, cool. If it doesn't, cool. It would be a dream if it did, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm going to continue using my machete to hack down my own pathway. I looked back behind me and I realized I'm about 3 years in with the new American media. How long ago, how many months, how many years are you in with PANDA? Was it about 2?
We're a little bit over 2 years old now, yeah.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. No, but I mean, like you were saying, when it hit you and you were just, your jaw hit the floor and you couldn't believe what was going on. The 63 senators betrayed you, and Lindsey Graham, you don't have any rights. Like, Did I wake up in a bad movie? Because that's not what I allow in my life. I felt the same way about that Kelly Thomas case, the homeless guy from Fullerton that was murdered on camera by Fullerton police who put on latex gloves and say, "You see these fists? They're getting ready to F you up." And they beat him to death on camera, 6 of them. The bloody pool expanding from his cracked and busted skull. He's crying out for his dad. He's saying sorry. He doesn't have a weapon. He's sitting down on the ground. And this is what happens when things get out of control. And either you sit by and go, well, that's not my problem, or you realize that could be me tomorrow. I mean, is that a similar sentiment that you have? Like you said, you don't want the next generation to deal with it. I guess, is that a different way of saying what I said? Like, that could be me tomorrow if I don't stop this today?
It definitely is a little bit different way of saying it, but it really is true. I mean, my generation, I'm only 20 years old. My generation is going to have to deal, and yours and my generation are going to have to deal with all of this along with the next generation. And you look at the Kelly Thomas case, and you look at a lot of other police brutality cases that have popped up throughout the country. And the question I'd ask your listeners is this new, or is this been going on forever and we only now know about it because we have cameras? See, the term power corrupts, and power corrupts absolutely, or absolute power corrupts absolutely, is then followed by, and all good men are bad men. And that last part of the phrase means essentially, just because you think you are a good person does not mean you can handle the type of power that modern-day police officers, modern-day senators, modern-day congressmen, modern-day military officers are given. And you look at the police militarization in this country, it's been very clear that the police are becoming more and more like the military, and vice versa. The military is becoming more and more like the police. 3 days ago or so, the Ohio there was some documents released.
I'm so glad. By the way, I'm going to jump in here and just thank you for going there, because I saw this on your PANDA. I think it was on your Facebook page. My brother is now getting involved in law enforcement. He's an NRA certified instructor, and he may actually join a separate division. And I saw this story, and I just it was one of those moments where you read this story about what's going on in Ohio. For everyone that doesn't know, I am from Ohio. That's why I do my Cleveland sports radio show. I'm still a homer. I still root for all those loser franchises. But yeah, and you're from Ohio, Dan. And I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this up so I don't have to. Now I'm going to stop talking and let you get back to your story since I so rudely interrupted you. But this is outrageous, what you're about to say.
I mean, don't feel bad. I hail from near Detroit, and I'm all for all those loser franchises too. In fact, we're so bad that the Lions, LIONS, stands for losing in our new stadium. But beyond that,
but you guys have championships with your Pistons and with the Tigers and with the Red Wings. They play a sport, don't they? We haven't celebrated anything since 1964. But I digress. We're talking about the crazy stuff going on in Ohio, where the good guys are now becoming the targets, and the backstory that they created is just so absurd. Anyway, it's just absurd. Please let me shut up. You tell the story. I want to hear your take.
So, in America, we have this term terrorist. And the term terrorist has usually been applied to, from most people's perspective in America, usually been applied to turban-wearing Middle Eastern men. And we have this term terrorist really doesn't have any grounds in any type of law. It really doesn't have any grounds in any type of category. It is merely a crime. If it was an act of war, it would be an act of war, and it would fall under the Geneva Convention. It would be outside of U.S. soil, or if it was on U.S. soil, let's take 9/11 for example. If it was on U.S. soil, it would be a crime, and if it was off U.S. soil, then it would be an act of war. If it was on U.S. soil, and it would only be an act of war if it was a sponsoring nation, not just a group of random guys. And our nation applied the term terrorism. The term terrorist has a very interesting background. It dates back to the colonial period, where Britain released a document in 1738 listing the top 10 things they were concerned about. And one of the top 10 things was terrorism. 30 years later, who are the terrorists? This term has no meaning besides government attempting to scare you into agreeing this person is guilty until proven innocent and has zero rights. And what we have now is an expansion of this term terrorist to include everyone. Now, as I talked about, a couple days ago, a story broke that in January, the Ohio National Guard conducted a domestic counterterrorism drill. And a year ago, they conducted this domestic counterterrorism drill, and who they envisioned? They envisioned environmentalists. Care about the environment, care about trees, care about the world around you? Well, you're a possible terrorist. And then this year, they flipped it. And they decided to label, and this is the Ohio National Guard. This is not a police force. This is the Ohio National Guard. And they decided that the people they were going to train on and the scenario they were going to train with was to go after anti-government groups. Go after groups that wanted to limit government. Go after Second Amendment advocates. There were Second Amendment scrawlings across the buildings where they had this exercise. The Ohio National Guard just practiced to go after constitutionalists, calling them domestic terrorists.
Yeah. We are upside down through the looking glass. It's the bizarro world. It's the Superman bizarro world. What's up is down, what's left is right. 1 + 1 is 3. So now if you...
Twilight Zone.
Huh?
It's the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's yeah. Oh, by the way, another great component of what happened with that drill is that there was outrage from some members of the community, so they actually received a formal apology for making environmentalists out to be potential terrorists. Did you happen to catch that? That there was a formal apology issued for what they did the last time? And by the way, no formal apology will be issued this time. Do you see the difference?
Big difference. And I think it's more because the groups hadn't, there wasn't enough groups that got outraged about it, that are on the more constitutionalist side of the scale. There wasn't enough groups that really knew about it to get outraged about it. But nonetheless, I mean, if you look at both instances, they're going after something that, and if you're a true environmentalist, and you really you realize that, hey, look, we only have limited resources on Earth, or we only have so much we can do to the planet, that's absolutely, I mean, there's no crime there, yet you're considered a domestic terrorist. And now they move it over. I mean, who's it going to be next? Is it going to be Mormons? Is it going to be, well, they've already done plenty with Muslims, but is it going to be Hindus? Is it going to be Japanese Americans? I mean, Justice Scalia 2 weeks ago said that if you think, and he was a speech at Hawaii University, he said if you think the Supreme Court would not approve another Japanese American World War II style detention, you're kidding yourselves. I don't like it, but it's the reality. When a Supreme Court justice says that our Supreme Court would authorize another World War II style mass detention, Americans better pay attention, because it's coming quicker than they realize. And they not only better pay attention, we've got a lot of people paying attention. They have to take action. You know, imagine if the Japanese Americans had 4 sheriffs, just 4 California sheriffs, say, you're not taking any Japanese Americans, and you will face the butt of my gun if you try. It wouldn't have happened. Those Japanese Americans would not have ended up in internment camps. Yet today, we're facing the exact same situation, and whether history repeats itself is going to be up to the people of the country.
What if there were nationwide riots over that instead of just marching along? Have you ever heard the song, it's by Fort Minor, I think it's called Kenji? It's one of the guys from Linkin Park. And he's half Japanese, and I think it was his father was rounded up into an internment camp. If you've never heard it, you got to check it out. It's Kenji by Fort Minor. And I remember reading the book Farewell to Manzanar about the Japanese internment camps in World War II. Are you saying then that these FEMA camps might have a secondary purpose or a primary purpose mislabeled as something else?
We really don't know what agency has the facilities necessary. I mean, they could easily clear out all the military brigs and just use those. They could clear out abandoned prisons and use those. We don't know what the structure would be, but certainly the Federal Emergency Management Agency has a plan and has a inner support structure to handle, maybe not on the scale of another World War II detention, but to handle another mass detention. I mean, you look at New Jersey, they got hit with a big storm recently. It was Superstorm Sandy. And at this Superstorm Sandy, you had literal FEMA encampments set up, and the amount of abuses that were coming out of those encampments and the amount of civil rights violations that were in those encampments, and even in Katrina, you had everyone locked in the Superdome. Could not leave, could not go anywhere, could not do anything. They were locked inside a massive stadium. People died. People had their rights violated. I mean, you cannot have this mass roundup or mass detention of any class or any type of person in this country and expect all to be well. It's just not going to happen. I mean, they picked the wrong door. That wrong door happens to be you. How many wrong door SWAT raids have we had in the past couple of years? What if when the military comes and they go detain this person that they're going after, and they think that they're going to be accused of terrorism sometime in the future, and they end up at your doorstep? Except instead of a SWAT raid, which if they end up at the wrong doorstep, they break down your door, they shoot a few holes in your wall, they scare the living daylights out of your family and shoot your dog. This time, they take you to Guantanamo Bay, and you end up sitting in a military prison without a charge, without a trial, without a way back out. And if you think the government apologizes for doing that, ask the 2 Londoners we picked up in the Middle East and held in Guantanamo Bay for a couple of years without ever letting them out until the government of Britain came to their defense. And if the United States government's picking you up, they're not coming to your defense.
Yeah, it brings this up. I'm just wondering if you had a chance to catch this one. Gotta wait for this to get set up. But really quick, you were talking about Katrina, and that's how Oath Keepers was started. I've had Stuart on the program. I know you guys talk, and I actually got to get him back on the program now that I think about it. Thanks for reminding me, Dan. But yeah, whenever there's a tragedy, whenever there's something really bad that happens, people are always just waiting. How can I exploit this? How can I use this to my advantage? How can I destroy my political allies? And we're in a presidency right now where you have the IRS being targeted at people that don't like the politics of this president and the Senate. You have it's just rampant. The level of corruption that's going on now. For anyone that thought Bush Cheney was bad, guess what? You're right. But for anyone that isn't really ready to understand just how bad the Barack Obama presidency is, you got to understand the mindset of somebody like this. And I can't really understand a nation that threw Richard Nixon out for wiretapping one hotel room. If you wiretap the planet, nothing happens to you, and you get to keep going. And this is the person that might be that is the commander in chief that could pull the trigger on some of these detention orders, these national emergency orders. I want to play this for you, Dan. I haven't vetted this video. It's only 41 seconds here, but to get inside of the mind of our commander in chief, to see his understanding for respect of rule of law. Let me just play this, and I hope you can hear it. If not, I'll explain it in a second. I'm not supposed to, but sorry, we're breaking protocol here. That's all right. That's the good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want. Oh, that's really quick. We'll play it one more time, and then I'll say. I'm not supposed to, but sorry, we're breaking protocol here. So the president's walking away. Sorry, we're breaking protocol here. Joking with the tour guide as he takes a detour with French President Hollande to Monticello. So they're breaking protocol, and they're just going to wander over here now, and the president says... That's all right. That's the good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want. That's the good thing about being president. I can do whatever I want. Dan, that's our commander-in-chief. Should the people be concerned?
Look at the examples. Last week, the United States the Pentagon announced that it would assassinate another American citizen.
Yeah, I saw that.
Number 5.
What is the backstory there on this one? It popped on my radar, and I never really got resolution to it. What's the story there?
So, in order to understand this story, let's go back to the first American citizen that we know of, publicly shouted from the rooftops.
Awlaki.
Killed by a U.S. drone. Yes, Anwar al-Awlaki. They claimed Anwar al-Awlaki is a traitor. He put out videos inciting jihad, inciting people to attack the United States. And when pressed for evidence, the only thing they could provide was, well, he emailed back and forth with Major Nidal Hassan, the Fort Hood shooter.
But that wasn't. By the way, that
go on the internet.
Hold on. But that wasn't terrorism, because they said that was workplace violence. Remember, like all the people that were injured there, they're not receiving their proper benefits because that wasn't actually terrorism, according to Eric Holder and Barack Obama.
You know, and for once, they get it right. It wasn't actually terrorism, because what the families, let's go to Nidal Hassan. What the families of the soldiers who were shot by Nidal Hassan are trying to get is they're trying to get those soldiers combat pay. They're trying to get those soldiers a combat pension because they were shot on a military base. Now think of the implications of that. So let's say we call this terrorism, which implies that there is a military element, and then these soldiers get combat pay. That confirms that the United States of America is a battlefield. And do you want your backyard to look like Baghdad? I don't.
But the NDAA says that it already is, right? Exactly.
And now you may have a case here, and the case is still going through. I don't know exactly what the name of it is. But now you have a case in which we're using the idea that the United States is a battlefield in the NDAA and then using it as precedent. And so I think for once, the administration called this violent. It should be a crime. It should be violence. It should not be terrorism. But they have this double standard. And so you have al-Awlaki emailing back and forth with Nidal Hassan, supposedly. And the Obama administration says, well, we've determined that this guy's a threat. We're going to go take him out. Now, anybody can go on the internet and look up, I think it's really conspiracy titled, but it's al-Awlaki, What the Government Doesn't Want You to Know. And watch Anwar al-Awlaki, an imam, talk about peace and talk about the importance of peace and talk about if the Americans kill 1 million people in the Middle East, it's not reason to shed one American life, the blood of one American. But the administration, violating the treason clause of the U.S. Constitution, Article 3, Section 3, treason shall only exist in levying war against them or in giving aid and comfort to their enemies. And to be convicted of treason, you have to have 2 witnesses in court or an open confession or a confession in open court to the same overt act. Now, they didn't bring him in for trial. They launched a drone, killed him, and then 2 weeks later, because according to Robert Gibbs, his son should have had better parents, they assassinated his son with a second drone strike. 16 years old, both American citizens. His son was born in Detroit. They both lived in Colorado before they went to Yemen. Now, we have a 5th American citizen. The administration admitted last year that they actually killed 2 more they forgot to tell us about. And now we're on to number 5 that we know of. Now, this is an American citizen in a classified country who has done things that are classified, and it is classified who they are. But the administration says we recommend lethal action. What kind of government do we have when they can just say, we want to kill you, we're going to announce that we're going to kill you, and then we're going to kill you, and there's nothing you can do about it? That is not a republic. That's a dictatorship.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind as we discuss all of this stuff, by the way, we're talking with Dan Johnson. Dan, give out your website real quick.
Our website is pandaunite.org. That's pandaunite.org. You can just search People Against the NDAA online.
And on Twitter?
Twitter.com/@PandaUnite, Facebook.com/PandaUnite, and on YouTube, Panda Unite TV.
You still doing that radio show, by the way?
Actually, we've moved. I have someone else taking care of the radio. It's a little bit of a rogue program for us, but we're bringing on a bunch of people with different topics and really pushing the NDAA and the issue of the NDAA pretty hard. I think we've got about last month we had 2,500 listeners or so not bad.
Nice. Still over on Freedomizer?
No, we actually had to leave Freedomizer because they didn't really support us much. We didn't really have much of a platform to work with.
That's
with
fair.
The glitches and the
Where did you land? Where are you at?
We're actually independent, completely independent. We're on Blog Talk Radio. It's blogtalkradio.com/PandaUnite.
Wow, it's so hard to remember all these things. Ugh,
I
they're all so
know.
different.
All of them are so original and so difficult to tie together.
I'm the guy that has like 100 different passwords for 100 different sites, and I'm so clever I confuse myself, and I have no idea how to log into anything. No, but the reason I do what I do, Dan, as we're talking about this, and it's just the more we dig in, the more layers of this onion we peel back, the stinkier and more painful it gets, and the more I cry. But there's this quote, we're going back to World War II to try to learn from history so we're not doomed to repeat it. This is a quote, Martin Niemöller. I've seen various versions of this, and it's attributed to the fact that he spoke extemporaneously in a number of settings. But the quote is this, roughly. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So it's part of what I do over here, Dan, and it's part of, why I respect what you're doing. It's because I take a look at all of this craziness, and I imagine, what if I was Kelly Thomas? I mean, I had a run-in with LAPD where I was almost thrown down a flight of stairs for standing at my friend's home with a glass of water. No need for violence, no need for anything, and they were just amped up. They wanted to crack skulls. I could see it. I could feel it. I could sense it. It was hyper-aggressive and unnecessary. I can't imagine being a Japanese American thrown into a freaking prison because I have slanty eyes and dark hair. I can't really understand that, but I try to put myself in the shoes of people like Anwar al-Awlaki, well, hey, here's another one. How about Edward Snowden? Let me veer off that. Unless you have any comments on that Niemöller quote, if that got you thinking on any train of thought there.
I mean, it definitely is a very popular quote, and it is a quote I think that very well applies, just because I think the lesson to learn from that quote is very simple. When you take the rights away, or when you take the protections of the rights away from one group of people, you take the protections of rights away from every group of people. You take the protections of rights away from this people we call terrorists. You take the protections of our rights away from every one of us, because all the government has to do is redefine the word terrorist. And all of a sudden, you are one.
Well, Dan, that actually just reminded me of something else here. We're going to take a little trip down, because you said if they take your rights away. And obviously this gets me thinking, and this will be a great chance if you want to grab a glass of water or listen to this. But we're talking about rights, and we're talking about privileges, and of course it gets me thinking of one of our greatest American philosophers of all time. Here we go.
Rights. Boy, everyone in this country is always running around yammering about their fucking rights. I have a right, you have no right, we have a right, they don't have a right. Folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? They're imaginary. We made them up, like the boogeyman. The Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, shit like that. Rights are an idea. They're just imaginary. They're a cute idea. Cute. But that's all. Cute and fictional. But if you think you do have rights, let me ask you this. Where do they come from? People say, well, they come from God. They're God-given rights. Oh, fuck, here we go again. Here we go again. The God excuse, the last refuge of a man with no answers and no argument. It came from God. Anything we can't describe must have come from God. Personally, folks, I believe that if your rights came from God, he would have given you the right to some food every day, and he would have given you the right to a roof over your head. God would have been looking out for you. God would have been looking out for you. You know that? He wouldn't have been worried about making sure you have a gun so you can get drunk on Sunday night and kill your girlfriend's parents. But let's say it's true. Let's say God gave us these rights. Why would he give us a certain number of rights? The Bill of Rights in this country has 10 stipulations, okay? 10 rights. And apparently God was doing sloppy work that week because we've had to amend the Bill of Rights an additional 17 times. So God forgot a couple of things like slavery. Just fucking slipped his mind. But let's say God gave us the original 10. He gave the British 13. The British Bill of Rights has 13 stipulations. The Germans have 29. The Belgians have 25. The Swedish have only 6. And some people in the world have no rights at all. What kind of a fucking goddamn God-given deal is that? No rights at all? Why would God give different people in different countries different numbers of different rights? Boredom? Amusement? Bad arithmetic? Do we find out at long last after all this time that God is weak in math skills? Doesn't sound like divine planning to me. Sounds more like human planning. Sounds more like one group trying to control another group. In other words, business as usual in America. Now, if you think you do have rights, one last assignment for you. Next time you're at the computer, get on the internet, go to Wikipedia. When you get to Wikipedia, in the search field for Wikipedia, I want you to type in Japanese Americans 1942, and you'll find out all about your precious fucking rights, okay? All right. You know about it. You know about it. Yeah. In 1942, there were 110,000 Japanese American citizens and good standing, law-abiding people who were thrown into internment camps simply because their parents were born in the wrong country. That's all they did wrong. They had no right to a lawyer, no right to a fair trial, no right to a jury of their peers, no right to due process of any kind. The only right they had, right this way, into the internment camps. Just when these American citizens needed their rights the most, their government took them away. And rights aren't rights if someone can take them away. They're privileges. That's all we've ever had in this country is a bill of temporary privileges.
Well, that was a little bit more prescient than I even imagined. Dan, comments on that from that rant, one of my favorite rants from George Carlin.
You know, I love Carlin, and he really does get the message out in a very, very good way. And Jon Stewart has done a pretty good job of at least taking part of his place. And I really like John modern and Carlin a little bit older. But in this case, I think Carlin confuses rights and privileges entirely and confuses the idea of the text giving you rights and the text protecting your rights. Yes, rights are a concept, and rights are a concept backed by science, but they're a concept nonetheless. However, rights versus privileges can be taken away. Privileges can be removed. Every single one of those Japanese American citizens had the right not to be in that camp. They sued the Supreme Court because they believed they had that right. Every single one of those Japanese American citizens had the right not to be taken out of their homes, had the right to a fair trial, had the right to live their life without government interference. However, the right was not protected by a government. Government is organized force. Organized force does not do a terribly great job protecting rights. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't, especially a monopoly on organized force. In the Japanese American instance, they had their rights, Every day they rotted in those internment camps. Every day they waited to visit their family. Every day they refused to sign a loyalty oath to the United States government. Every single day they had their rights, the protections of those rights. The government refused to protect those rights, but the minute they got out, they were able to use and utilize those rights. The government can never take them away. They can only trample them. Because if you believe the government can take them away and give them to you, they're not rights. They're privileges granted to you by a government. And you should probably do whatever the government says, because the government can apparently morally decide whether you live or die.
Yeah. You know, most of us in this country have the ability to just, let's just face it, do whatever we want for the most part. We can kind of travel as we want. We can associate with people as we want. We can worship how we want or not at all. We can eat what we want. But more and more every day as things seem to pass, as time passes, it seems as though more and more of our choice is being taken away. What is that in Devil's Advocate, where Pacino's free will? Or no, is it vanity? It's my favorite of the sins. You know, and he talks about free will in there a lot, about free will. But the nanny state really trying to restrict what we can eat, what we can drink, trying to pass laws who you can and can't marry. You can only have one currency, and that's the one that's loaned to you at interest by a private bank. We're just going to call it Federal Reserve for the heck of it and make you think it's part of the government, which it's not. More and more of our rights and choices are being taken away, the free will. And it gets me thinking on a much larger scale, Dan. I mean, we can have corrupt puppets being held by the right hand or the left hand. All right, that's fine. I don't think I don't want to put words in your mouth, Dan, but you're not much of a fan of Republicans or Democrats. Is that roundabout pretty correct?
I think that'd be pretty fair. I think they're, as Public Enemy put it, two wings of the same damn bird.
Yeah, two wings of the same dirty bird is what okay, fair enough. I gotta look that one up. But yeah, it gets me thinking a little bit bigger than just some corrupt politicians, who I will call useful idiots at this point. You know, they make a few bucks, they get a nice pension, they get to ride around in fancy cars and, you know, probably bang prostitutes and eat really expensive steak dinners and stuff, and they're pampered and spoiled, and they think the law doesn't apply to them. But they're still just useful idiots. They're still just the puppets. George Carlin bringing up the concept of God. Now we'll go a different place for just a second, Dan, because I'm really into this Ancient Aliens series, just really trying to connect the dots from world religions to try to understand, because religion is essentially what government does. It tells you what you can and cannot do, and it forcefully, floods the planet to kill you or throws you in jail or hangs you from a noose until you are dead. How do you factor in, Dan Johnson of PANDA, how do you factor in a spiritual God, creator of the universe concept into this planet? Because I'm starting to feel either we are cattle to be tracked and tagged and treated as such, or we are valuable and have worth, and we should be treated with respect and allowed to do what we want as long as we don't infringe upon anybody else. So my question specifically is, how do you equate the concept of spirituality into the human purpose on this planet? Are we just cattle and we just got to go along with it, or else we're going to get, that bolt gun through the neck? Or do you think that there is a spiritual force looking out for us and wants us to be free?
It's a tough question, and I know you've not been one to sway from tough questions. And that's one of the reasons I like coming back on the show, is we can cover a little bit more than NDAA from time to time. And it's important to understand, first of all, that religions have been, in the past, have literally been the government. Religion and government have gone hand in hand in the past quite a bit. And religion today is a little bit different, is a little bit less of a controlling factor, because religion does not have the monopoly on legitimate force. The government has a monopoly on what it calls legitimate force. So the government has a monopoly on force. And so in any case, I would always urge people to choose a religion of a spiritual being versus the religion of government. Because religion does not have that monopoly on force, and you can, unless you're in Scientology, apparently, you can leave that religion. So I think it's very important to this one's really difficult. This one is not a question I can easily answer, but it is a question that I urge your listeners to think about. It's something that I'm personally at the moment wrestling with myself, as I kind of have transitioned from this neoconservative to someone who strongly favors a very, very limited government. And the controlling factor, and it's almost as if in modern days, people use God as the end of the argument. People can form their God into whatever they want, and they use God as the end of the argument. So you say this, and you say that the sky is blue, and I say, well, God told me the sky is green, and that's it. There is no other argument from you. That is how people use God, and it is very dangerous, especially when a government uses God, when a government turns into theocracy. So on this question, the best I can say is that your listenership really needs to think about how religion has controlled us in the past and how it may continue to control us in the future if that control element is still in religion. But because religion does not have a monopoly on force, I would advise highly to choose religion over the religion of government or religion of the state. And though I rarely cannot answer a question, that is one of them I can't answer.
I love it. I love it. See, the thing with me, Dan, is that because I was raised Christian, always went to church, you know, and when we talk about I like where you started going there with the religion of government, steering clear, picking religion over the religion of government, which by its own definition, its only purpose is to continue growing like the blob in those old horror movies, and it will always turn into fascism, you know, crony capitalism. You know, that we write a set of rules for all of y'all, but all of you folks, as the president likes to say, you folks have a bunch of laws, but I'm president. I can do whatever I want. I could imagine George Bush doing that. I'm the president. I can do whatever I want. Yeah, but for me, thinking about it, is my parents did have control over me. When I was born and I was a child, it was their responsibility to take care of me. They were not technically my air quote big brother, but they were my parents, and I was their property until I became able to take care of myself, till the bird could jump out of the nest and fly on my own. Talking about dirty birds and two wings of the same bird. In that regard, I like how the parents have the responsibility to take care of the kid, and how religion can give some people a little bit of structure, giving you some tools so that you can walk amongst this video game world that we have, go to different levels, different planets, different, you know, you can wear different costumes and get different weapons, or, you know, have different companions that you travel with. I mean, it's just a big video game. So, I mean, I think a lot of those developmental years, it is important to have, you know, either some sort of rational religious upbringing to give you a general set of guidelines of, well, you know, if you, Cain and Abel, if you kill your brother, that's probably not a good thing. Well, that adultery, well, someone might kill you. You know, and you just get some general guidelines with how to do it. But when you have a government treating grown men and women like children, but they're not your biological parents, that's when things start to get really weird, because I don't understand the power trip necessary to always try to tell everyone else how to live. I don't really understand it. I really don't give a damn what someone does if it doesn't impact me directly. I'm very libertarian in that sense. And much like you, Dan, I'm a former, I guess I could say, neocon turned libertarian / constitutionalist. You know, even those terms are limiting, I suppose. And coming up next, we're going to have Blake the Eccentric Wally. He's a former leftist, former Democrat turned libertarian constitutionalist, something like that. But what I wrestle with, Dan, this, I don't know, now I'm just talking with you, just a couple of guys talking. You know, but I always wondered, because
Let me, if you, I mean, how much time we got before the end of the segment?
How much time you want? Go ahead, jump in.
At least a couple minutes. So let's bring up an interesting question. You brought up parenting. You brought up, raising up a child. An interesting concept that was really brought to me and really is profound is if you accept that it's wrong to hit another person, it's wrong to assault another person, it's wrong to get in a fight and start a fight with another person, physically assaulting them. We have even society today has generally accepted assaulting someone is wrong, especially assaulting a handicapped person. Of course, the government considers itself an exception to that rule, but assaulting a handicapped person, assaulting a mentally handicapped person, assaulting someone with less or more mental capacity, we really don't care. If you're assaulting someone, we consider that assault. Yet, in parenting, we have this idea that one can hit their children without their children asking them to, or without their children hitting them, without their children going after them, but merely to force obedience and unquestioning obedience. And it's something that many Americans believe in, and something that many Americans, or some Americans don't, but to question it. See, the reason often stated for why what is called spanking, for why one would spank a child, is because, well, they need to learn, they need to understand, they need to be able to listen. And they don't have the mental capacity to be sat down with and had a conversation with. Well, we consider it awful were you to sit an elderly person who is not capable of having a rational conversation down and beat them. We consider it awful were you to take a mentally handicapped person and do the same. Yet, we make a special exception for children, and I almost wonder if a complete and utter reverence for authority, for this government authority, for the state, comes when a child is being brought up in the home and forced to comply with the parent's will, not by reason, but by force and by physical punishment if there is not unquestioning obedience. And I wonder if that, during the formative years of the child's brain, carries off into an utter respect for authority that we have today.
The beat down early leads to living a life where you're always kind of flinching at things, always just making sure you don't incur the wrath of the next beat down, something like that.
Only this time, it's the state's acting like the parent, beat downs from the state, and not the parent. See, we have scenarios in America today which are literally insane.
I like that. On insane, your feed goes insane. You still with us, Dan? Danny boy, you still with us? Tell you what, let me get him back on. We'll try this.
Hello.
that are literally insane.
I'd like to welcome the NSA to this conversation.
Hi, guys. How's it going in Utah today? The sunsets, they're purple and pretty. Okay, anyway, yeah.
And you know what? I hear an echo on the phone, so not that I'm paranoid or anything, but hey. So looking at, again, there was a man in North Carolina recently who ran out of his home to go check on a wreck that happened in front of his house, and the police asked him to back down, and he didn't, and they just shot him to death. So we have people in America who said, well, he should have listened to orders, should have followed orders, otherwise he wouldn't have got killed. You know, when the state takes the concept of assaulting a person and adds to it militarized policing authority, it turns into death. And I wonder if teaching children that there is an exception. You can't hit but. You can't go after them but. You can't hurt but. You can't aggressively attack a person but. That they learn the but is the parents. And when the state acts like the parents, the older generation understands maybe that, or falsely understands that the state says either in questioning obedience or we go after you and we have the right to do so and it's okay for us to do so. And I was spanked heavily as a child, but I question it.
Well, let's talk about parents and move over to Big Brother. Like we said, I don't think I've spoken with you since the NSA revelations of the blatant, rampant, completely illegal, and I say impeachable offense of what the NSA is doing. There is a Fourth Amendment, and for people that don't seem to care, I don't get where you're coming from, and if you want to opt in to being spied on, I feel like maybe there should be a checkbox, like the opposite of how Facebook does it. If you choose to be spied on, then check this box, otherwise you are all opted out of it, as opposed to being flip-flop. But I just want to read this here so we're all clear as to what I'm talking about. This is the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Now, I don't think you and I have spoken since the Edward Snowden revelations. I find what's been going on completely illegal, 100% unacceptable. And I wanted to talk about Big Brother and your thoughts on Snowden, because I think you and I have talked in the past about Chelsea Manning. I think we've talked in the past about, well, Bradley Manning, you know. We've talked about whistleblowers before. There's Bill Binney, there's Thomas Drake from the NSA that came out. But the Snowden thing really kind of seemed to catch on. People get that this is not right. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because this is just like your parent checking in on, you know, and I'm old enough. I remember before cell phones. Dan, back in my day, let me tell you, son, back in my day, we had telephones with really long wires, and if we wanted privacy, we had to stretch that cord real far and go into the other room and talk kind of quiet. Or we'd have to pick up the phone down in the basement and talk kind of quiet. But you know what our parents would do? They were smart. They would pick up another phone and hold the mute button, and they would listen, because they were acting like Big Brother. No, they weren't. They were acting like parents. You know, are we talking about drugs? Are we talking about, dangerous, reckless, illegal activities that could potentially damage us? Come to find out, the NSA and Barack Obama are listening in on the other line on mute to everybody. I want to get your thoughts. It's such a broad issue. I kind of want to get your opinion here, because this is the same government that brought us the NDAA. What role does illegal surveillance, a wide-stretched dragnet of the entire planet, what role does surveillance and information play in the end game, as you see it being put together in this game of chess?
Warrantless surveillance is an important part of a dictatorial society. It is an important part of a society that understands how to control people. Because there's been recent studies that if someone goes, let's say, and there's actually a study where there was some candy by a water fountain. And the candy was for the company, and it was for company employees, but it would work on the honor system. So on the honor system, somebody would put a little bit of money into the bucket for the candy. And they ran this for a little while, and then decided to try an experiment. So on the paper that said, this works on the honor system, they put a picture of an eye. Just a picture of an eye, but a picture of an eye on that piece of paper. Nothing else changed. The amount of money in the bucket that worked on the honor system tripled. People change their habits. They change their attitudes. They change what they say. They change what they do when they know they're being watched. You know how many government whistleblowers have come out after Snowden?
Wow. Wow.
Oh.
That's right.
They used Snowden as a scarecrow. They used him as, here's what will happen to you if you dare whistleblow against this administration, if you dare whistleblow against this government. On the other hand, those revelations have done wonders for the American people's distrust of government. The American people the polls have been showing it. The distrust of government has skyrocketed. Distrust of corporations is nowhere near the distrust of government today, as it should be, since government has the monopoly on force and corporations do not. Although the government's acting like a corporation more and more. The revelations have done amazing things for the anti-NDAA movement, for the NDAA resistance. We've found over and over again that the reason cities and counties are taking this seriously, the reason people are having us at their events, the reason people are excited about what we're doing is because they're concerned about the NSA. And it's bad enough that someone can spy on your phone, but now if they hear something on your phone that they don't like, they can store it away for later. And then when you go do something with your life, when you go out and you become an activist, or when you go out and start achieving at your job, or when you go out and start doing something the government wants you to stop doing, they pull out that information, they call you a terrorist, and they ship you to Guantanamo Bay. It's a heck of a lot more frightening for someone, even a county commissioner, to go, they're already tapping my phone, now they can take me to a military prison because of what they hear. So it has done absolutely amazing things for civil liberties awareness in this country and for fighting back against these civil liberties violations that we have in America. So I'm very happy with it overall. It has done an amazing job in starting to undermine the credibility of the United States government. On the other hand, whistleblowers are gone because they're not willing to become another Snowden. So you have your pros and you have your cons. And today, I think America is overall better off because of those revelations. Those revelations have done amazing things for awareness in this country, and now it's going to be up to the American people. Do you want history to repeat itself, or are you going to step in, and as the freest society this world has ever known, are you going to step in and say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen in our country. We're the United States of America. We're not perfect. We're nowhere near perfect. We're nowhere near a city on a hill. But we're the freest society that has ever existed in the history of the world, and we will not allow our government to look at our phones, to look at our data, to watch us while we sleep, while we eat, while we shower, while we go places, to know who we go to punish us for our associations, and then to call us terrorists whenever we resist. We will not allow that to happen, and it's up to the American people to do it. And you know what this revelation has done? Korn recently released an album with clips from news articles, or from news clips about the NSA surveillance in their music video.
What?
It's a big, big national band. And
I actually just interviewed Monkey, their guitar player, like 2 weeks ago. I caught him at a music convention. Korn take on NSA and pop culture with Spike in My Veins video from February 6th. Man, this is totally off my radar. Okay, it's on my radar now. Continue telling me about it. Yeah, go ahead.
When something reaches into the music community, when something reaches into the music culture, that's when the government starts losing. Because the culture starts changing when the musicians start changing their music to be protest music against the government. The culture starts changing. That's why Russia required, the Soviet Union required you to register your lyrics and to get your lyrics approved by the commissar before you spoke about them and before you sang them.
Well, look at Pussy Riot. Just grabbed up. Yeah. They didn't like what they were doing. All right, we're going to erase you. Time to go just for some re-education camps. I have this in front of me here. Let's hear about it. What is this from? Loudwire.com. Korn have never shied away from using the musical platform to make a statement. In their new video for Spike in My Veins, the band takes their concerns over what currently passes for news, overtaking deeper issues like the government invading our privacy, and addresses it head-on. The David Dintz-directed video finds the band performing in front of a bank of television sets, as recent events like Toronto Mayor Rob Ford's arrest, Miley Cyrus's MTV Music Video Awards performance, Richard Sherman's post-NFC Championship game rant, and coverage of Justin Bieber, among others, featured on the screens. But within each clip, there appears to be a glitch, as shots of President Obama on celebrity talk shows are intermingled with his political comments on NSA spying. The clip seen above, debuting at Rolling Stone, and frontman Jonathan Davis told the magazine's website of the video, quote, "We are also caught up in watching crazy media on the internet and TV that we are manipulated into ignoring that our privacy has all but disappeared. Spike in My Veins appears to be the band's Paradigm Shift album, which has already yielded the hit songs and equally intriguing videos for Never Never and Love and Meth. Korn will spend the spring embracing the world part of their world tour. They'll finish up in February and carry over into March. And it doesn't say in here that they're going to be doing a big show with Avenged Sevenfold, which Monkey told me in my interview. But anyway, okay, now this is on my radar. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. All right, yeah, I'm going to press play on this. I think I'm going to play out my show today with Kenji. I'm going to play that song by Fort Minor, and I recommend everybody go buy it because it's a hell of a song with social commentary. But a couple of comments on Snowden. What if it was if he's a COINTELPRO? What if all of this was set up to be a way to just make the people feel as though we're being spied on in ways that we're not even being spied on? What if it was all just...
It doesn't matter. It's not about him. I have my suspicions.
Yeah, and
it's not about him. What matters is the information. It doesn't matter whether he's COINTELPRO, whether he has CIA stamped on his forehead, or whether he's an actual whistleblower who really did try to serve in the Special Forces, really did serve the CIA, and really did serve the National Security Agency. Now, with government incompetence, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. But Sybil Edmonds of Boiling Frogs Post has done a great breakdown of some of the lies and some of the duplication and the tricks that Glenn Greenwald and Snowden are using the Snowden files, has manipulated information brought out, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the NSA spying on each and every American citizen, and not just American citizens, but any person in the United States, any person in the world. And it's not just the NSA; it's the FBI, it's the Department of Homeland Security. The NSA is not the only agency spying on us. There's several agencies that are spying on us through different programs and different information. What now has been revealed is that the American people are in a control grid, a spying control grid. And what we need to do is say enough, city by city, by city, by city, by county, by county, by county, and say, look, we're not going to do this. We're not going to allow. If you're a company in this city who wants to provide services to the NSA and allow the NSA access to your server, leave. We're not allowing you in this city. You can do what Utah is doing right now. They introduced a bill to shut off water and supplies and any type of support to the NSA facility in Utah. Now, is that bill going to pass? If it does anything, I guarantee you it will not. But that is an example of saying, no, we will not have it. Now, they don't just focus on the NSA. Focus on other agencies that are engaging in warrantless spying. But what we have now for the first time in history, in world history, because of the internet, when a government turns to tyranny, the people now know. I mean, we've been joking about NSA spying on our phones. I'm not sure how long you've been joking about it. I've been joking about it for several years.
It would be a joke if I wasn't actually meaning it, but yes, yeah, indeed. A long time now. Hello, NSA.
Yeah, hello, Brian. But no, I mean it's been known for a while, but now because of the internet, it's been brought into the mainstream. It's been brought into the real world because the government has been unable to control the propaganda. The government has been unable to control the media. They've been unable to control the information flow. North Korea has done a really good job of controlling the information flow to their country. We have not, or the United States government is not, and that is what's the saving grace in America right now is the internet, is a free and open internet. But if I may, going back to the culture thing, this is the first radio show I've been on since we launched, so I want to announce something really, really exciting.
Yeah, let's do it.
So,
no, hold on. Actually, hold on. Wait. Hold on. Let me wrap up the loose end that I still had floating out there, and then I want you to announce this because your thing involves music, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. See, that's a great segue with Corn and the NSA and everything else. I just wanted to say to talk about the surveillance and talk about it changes how people act and what they say and what they do and how they conduct themselves. Your boy in your backyard over there, Mr. John Boehner. I've tweeted this out multiple times. I've talked about it on various shows. What kind of killer dirt must the NSA and Obama have on John Boehner to get him to act the way he's been acting, Dan? I mean, that's your representative. That's your boy back in Ohio. He's not making me happy being from Ohio for 25 years. I mean, isn't it possible that Supreme Court justices who changed their mind, like John Roberts on Obamacare and John Boehner, who are now just actively rolling over like Fido, isn't it highly possible these are completely co-opted individuals with so much dirt on them that they have now become drones or robots or puppets for the power structure? Either do this or we're going to disappear you. Oh yeah, you're going to go away for a long time, pal. I mean, isn't that a real possibility? And then we'll start wrapping things up here.
Well, NSA whistleblower Russ Tice has been going around and saying, look, we can and we did blackmail certain individuals at high level of government, whether that's Supreme Court justices, whether that's presidential candidates, whether that's whoever. It does assume the power of blackmail when you allow things that no one wanted to be recorded to be recorded. We all have private parts of our lives. We all have certain parts of our lives that we don't want on the internet. I am not really cool with having a video of me taking a shower on the internet, but especially with Photoshop, especially with all the powers of photo manipulation software. So it is possible.
Dan. On Valentine's Day, blame your shower inadequacies on Photoshop. It was the NSA, ladies. No. I'm the real deal. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, don't kid yourself. You don't have any ladies listening to this broadcast.
Yes, actually, males aged 23 to 35 from Alaska, New Zealand, Australia, and Canada. They seem to be our target demographic outside of the States. But yes, anyway, moving on.
So when you say hello NSA, you mean yourself?
Actually, ready to hit 200,000 views on YouTube, which is a nice little milestone and just another step along the way. But anyway, all kidding aside, I completely interrupted you about shower pictures, I believe is where we took that.
There are some things all of us do not want on the internet. There are some things all of us do not want in public, regardless of whether they're shameful or not. There are some things we just want to keep private.
True.
And when the NSA is going after, regardless of whether it's a high-level government official or you and I, the possibility for blackmail really, truly does exist, and it really is important to look at the extreme possibility of blackmail and of the what we have in our society with this surveillance state. We're looking at a real strong possibility of blackmail. Though, it's going to be very hard to prove. And on the other hand, power corrupts. And how much power does the big guy at the House of Representatives have on the Hill? Or as Jon Stewart refers to it as BS Mountain.
BS
how much
Mountain.
power does John Boehner have? Does he even need to be blackmailed? We like to think of these individuals as good people until. Maybe they're good people until they get power.
Yes.
So it is important to understand that maybe it's not blackmail. Maybe it's not just blackmail. We have the possibility, but maybe it's not just blackmail. Maybe it's something else. There was a comment on Reddit that was made at one time, and I really wish I could find it again because it was amazing. It was at the height of the NSA scandal and the NSA revelations. And I forget exactly what user. In fact, when I went back into Reddit as we were talking, I found that somebody, whether him or somebody else, had deleted his account. But the
Hi NSA
account, yeah, hi NSA.
I like it. The
account,
boogeyman of the NSA is like everything we do. Oh, Kyrie Irving, why'd you miss that free throw? Thanks NSA. Anyway.
You know what? We should actually do like a hashtag. Every single time something goes wrong, thanks NSA.
Now I'll have to say then the three of us are going to have to take credit for this together. It was Jenna Marbles. Are you familiar with who that is? She does like these comedy sketches on YouTube.
I am, yeah. I know of her a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, she did this sketch. It was thanks Obama. My cereal isn't crunchy. Thanks Obama. My dog farted. Thanks, Obama. And I think she was making fun of the stupid right-wingers that were blaming Obama for everything. But actually, you can blame him for so much. It actually does work, and I've said it in jest so many times. Yeah, let's do hashtag thanks NSA. I'm in. I'm in, Dan. I think it's a good idea, but all three of us need to kind of raise our hands together on that. We all created it. But yes, anyway, the account on Reddit that you were looking at was deleted, I think is where I took you off on that tangent.
Yeah, it was unfortunately deleted, and I'm not sure where it is. I know that it was so powerful that we said it live on several broadcasts of the Panda radio show, and we have been very, very adamant about the real problems with surveillance. But the general gist of the comment is from a Redditor in one of the Middle Eastern countries, talking about surveillance. And you go, the gist of the comment is, you go to a protest, you go to a rally, you've never been before, but you thought you really hated that animals are being treated badly in farms. So you went to go to a rally to protest about animal treatment in farms, and you were tagged by your government. You were tagged by your government for extra surveillance. And, maybe it's your dad cheated on his taxes. Maybe it's that you have a girlfriend. Maybe it's the pictures on your phone. Maybe it's something else. But everyone has something the government can exploit, and then they blackmail you, and they use that to blackmail you in that country. You Americans do not understand what you're heading into. You Americans do not understand what mass surveillance means in America. And in fact, this Reddit comment actually sparked several anti-NSA organizations, anti-NSA movements. You don't understand what's going on in America. You don't understand what it's like and what this becomes. See, one day that you realize that you have to start ratting on your friends because the government comes to you and says, look, if you don't start ratting on your friends who are in this protest group, then we are going to say that we're going to show you, look, your dad cheated on his taxes, and we're going to take your dad to court, and you're never going to see your dad again. So you start ratting on your friends, and your friends start going to jail, and no one speaks up because they know if they speak up, they're next. And then you say, I can't take it anymore, and you stop ratting on your friends, and then one day they come to pick you up. This is how surveillance works, and this is the power of a surveillance state and a surveillance society. The NSA is almost required for the NDAA. Otherwise, they don't really know, and they can't really go after you. It's very hard for them to go after a very, very public figure. They want to get you when you're young. They want to get you when you're just getting started. the NSA allows, and the warrantless surveillance and the warrantless spying of the American people allows for the NDAA. They work in tandem. They work in conjunction. As an organization, we focus on NDAA, focus on blocking the laws of war, so that when and if the NSA continues its spying, and when the government continues its spying, when it sends agents to go pick someone up, local police officer, local sheriff says, whoa, buddy, stop. But America does not understand what this really means. People are starting to realize the power of mass surveillance. But the NDAA paired with the NSA is one of the most dangerous combinations ever seen in a country, because in all the other countries, we can name them off: Egypt, Syria, Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany, Communist China under Mao. All these regimes had the same laws in place as we now have in the United States of America. And that, if anything else, because of the future of your listeners' children and the future of the people in America, the next generation, should get every one of you off the couch and do something. Doesn't matter what you do, just do something. If each of us, instead of sitting there and, well, we're just going to learn the information, we're just going to sit here and listen to a broadcast, do something. Because doing something, especially locally, doing something in your community, people like that do something. We have 53%-ish of America who are upset about NSA spying. If 25% of those people did something, it would be over. We would be done, and government would be reformed in weeks. Do something about it, whether it's NDAA, whether it's NSA, whatever grabs your attention and the overreach of government, do something. Because Martin Niemöller, his quote, and we'll refer back to that, first they came, and then they came for me.
And then they came for me. Absolutely, Dan. I like to play a game called If I Were a Bad Guy. And if I were a bad guy, Dan, the things I would do with the NSA. I'm telling you, I would make a miserable monster. I would be really good at being a monster. And oh, you're paranoid. No. I just have the capability in me to be evil, because I understand how you could use all of this power and all this information to get everything I wanted. But I actually don't want to do that. I'm not interested in that. That's abhorrent to me. It makes me sick to my stomach to think that that's the only way to succeed and live a life on this planet, is to act like a monster and murder and oppress and steal and silence and intimidate. I'm not interested in that. But when I play the If I Were a Bad Guy game in Ponder, it all starts with the NSA. You have every piece of information, you cross-reference it, and you find a way to get to people. You can find a way. I've watched enough movies, I get it, and it's bad news. And, that's why we're happy you're doing what you're doing. That's why we're doing what we're doing at the New American Media. And I want you to explain the project that you're working on, because this is interesting. Yeah, we kind of texted a little bit prior to the show, and I'm not really familiar with this I don't know, what would you call it? A product, a series, a launch? What is it? Series? I don't know. Tell me about the project you're working on, because it piqued my interest, and I'd like to hear some more about it with the music.
Well, it's pretty obvious you really don't know, because you're really not even sure what to call it.
Yes, that thing that you do so well.
So as an organization, one of the things we've done as a movement, as a decentralized movement, one of the things we've done, and our strategy is to go into a city. When we go into a city, we pass a resolution that bans the NDAA, bans the laws of war, bans the authorization of use of military force. Any type of military action on people not in the military is banned in that city. Then we go to the police department. We have the police department back that resolution and say they will defend it, and they will defend their citizens' rights. They put it on paper. Well, the final phase, because there are two people you should never trust, and that's politicians and law enforcement. The final phase is to push the law enforcement to actually enforce the law and to enforce a neighborhood watch in the area. And one of the problems we found with that final phase is how much pressure is going to be on that police officer when the military comes in to your jurisdiction and says, we want to detain Joe Smith because he's a threat to national security. You as a police officer know you cannot allow them to do that. You are not constitutionally authorized to allow them to do that, and you must stand in the way. But would it really hurt? Could you just turn a blind eye just once and let it slip, let it slide? The ultimate enforcement and the ultimate defenders of our rights, people. So, what changes culture? Right now we have a culture in the United States of trusting the government in a lot of ways. And trusting whether you're on the one side of the spectrum or the other, trusting the government in war or trusting the government in regulating the economics. Trust in the government is getting to an all-time low, but many people still trust in the government and trust in the government's interest. So we must change the culture. We change the culture by changing the music. Now, this is an avenue not really explored by a lot of people. I mean, Ron Paul said that if you're going to have a revolution, you'll need two things, young people and music. And yet this avenue is not really explored in America today. I don't see very many Liberty concerts. In the United We Stand Fest going on at UCLA Pauley Pavilion, May 10th of this year. That's a huge concert.
Hold on, United We Stand Fest is May 10th at UCLA?
May 10th, UCLA, Pauley Pavilion. Immortal Technique, Wu-Tang Clan, Public Enemy, bunch of Sounds of Solidarity, tons of other bands, tons of other speakers. I'll be speaking there. P.A.N.D.A will be there in force. We're co-sponsoring the event. We're all very, very excited about the United We Stand Fest.
Hey, how do you, and you're going to be there then, how do you feel about bringing me on stage to sing Happy Birthday since it's my birthday? And it's my backyard.
I'll just kind of wink at you while I'm up there, and it'll kind of that'll be the song.
No. I want Immortal Technique, and who else is there again? I was thinking about Immortal Technique because he's been on my interview list for a while. I just haven't reached out to him yet. Who else is going to be there? One more time? Immortal Technique,
Wu-Tang Clan, Public Enemy, Sounds of Solidarity. Oh goodness, there's so many artists. It's going to be a really powerful one-day event. It's actually put on by Free and Equal Elections. Free and Equal Elections Foundation, as you might have remembered, is the group and is the organization that put on the debates back in 2012, the third-party debate.
The third. I liked those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to have some other groups that are going to be there. They're going to have Cynic. They're going to have Golden State, Johnny Campbell, I can't say Campbell, John Goodhue, Kelly Mays, Lily Hayden, Luke Rakowski is going to be there, Nick Burnaby, Michael Levitin, Rosa Corey, Sheriff Richard Mack, Saving Abel, Sounds of Solidarity, The Siren. There's Tatiana Moroz. There's quite the large talent list.
Yeah, I've had Tatiana on the program, too. No, that sounds good. I was actually just talking with Mark Claire with Lions of Liberty. Have you done his podcast yet? I forget.
I have, actually. This was one of the very first episodes
nice.
Of that podcast.
Yeah, he's doing a good job over there. And he started a Facebook page, Liberty on Tap, and he wants to do more events like in the pubs and maybe even concerts to get liberty-minded people all across Los Angeles to go out and do things and network with each other, and kind of connect outside of your keyboard or your iPad or your cell phone or something. And I was like, yeah, it's been a while since I put on a concert. And I think it's all converging that music needs to address this, whether it's Korn, Immortal Technique, Wu-Tang. Come on, you got to get Wu-Tang Clan to sing Happy Birthday to Brian. That's now on my bucket list. I need to celebrate my birthday to Wu-Tang Clan. I don't know what I'm going to have to blow out, but I doubt it's going to be a candle. But that sounds like a lot of fun. But I think you're right. There needs to be music in the peaceful
you think so small. You think so one event. You think
And
so,
that was
like,
Dan Johnson, everybody. Don't check out his website. No, anyway, what were you saying? I'm kidding.
You know, I actually had somebody do that to me.
Well, hold on.
On a radio broadcast.
For real, though? I was kidding.
Yeah, I know. I actually had. I went on another topic, and the radio broadcast wasn't supposed to end for like another 20 minutes or so. And it's like, and that was Dan Johnson, and boom, shut down.
Nice. Thanks, NSA.
No. Like, I mean, yes, that's a huge event. I mean, only 10,000 people there. I mean, whatever. 10,000 people UCLA Poly Pavilion, but that's one day. See, we're going bigger. We launched a couple days ago the fundraising campaign for it. We're launching the P.A.N.D.A. Take Back concert tour. Now, this Take Back concert tour also featuring Immortal Technique, The Siren, Chris Black, Saving Abel. We've put out invites to several other people, including actually it's going to include Jordan Page, Merck, the Ameros, Darren Dave, even the Flying Penguins, Rustic Justice. We put out invites to Rage Against the Machine. We put out invites to about 20 other artists. We're starting to just build up the tour.
Go after Tom Morello personally. He does some side projects, and he is one of the most outspoken people. He's involved with Audio Slave, Rage Against the Machine. I think he has his own band. I think he's in some other stuff too. Get Tom Morello directly.
Absolutely, that's who we're going to be going after as well. And so you've got a huge list of bands that are going to be there. We're going to have speakers from every issue there, and all the issues are focused on, okay, how does NDAA affect my activism and my issue, and how can we solve this issue on a local level? Our mantra for this Take Back concert tour is not make DC listen. It's not Ted Cruz. It's not make DC listen. It's ignore DC. They want to live in a bubble. They want to pretend they can't hear the American people. They want to live in their bubble on their city on a hill. They want to live in D.C. Well, they can live in their bubble, and we don't have to deal with any of the laws passed in that bubble either. So they can live and they can regulate their own bubble. And what this is doing is just taking activism local in our cities, in our communities. So this Take Back concert tour, where we launched the fundraiser on Indiegogo.com. You go to Indiegogo.com, just search Take Back concert tour, or go online, search Take Back concert tour. We're going to be doing one in Kalamazoo, Michigan, doing one in Albany, New York, doing one in Atlanta, Georgia, and maybe doing one in Sacramento, California, although we have some issues with the arenas up there. So we are very excited about this Take Back tour, and we intend to do this, if it works, we intend to do this every single year, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until – not one Woodstock, 3 Woodstocks. I mean, this is something that can bring the youth of America and bring the culture of America toward local action, local activism, and to say no to the NDAA at every form. I mean, 7 of these artists that we invited are either creating or have created a song specifically for the NDAA.
Oh, nice. I like that.
So this is going to ingrain in the American psyche, ingrain in the American culture that we do not allow this to happen, that we will not allow this again because we're going to continually talk about it through music, through art, through other art forms, and that's the Take Back concert tour. That's something we're very, very excited about, is changing the culture and pulling off the first, that I know of, big Liberty concert tour all around the country, doing it again next year, doing it again in the year after that, but changing the culture against the NDAA, changing the culture to be a pro-rights, pro-liberty culture where individual freedom is valued by everyone from music artists to the activists to the graffiti artists on the street.
Wow. And May 10th is the first one, on my birthday, when Wu-Tang's singing me happy birthday.
May 10th is put on by Free and Equal. The Take Back tour is put on by P.A.N.D.A. P.A.N.D.A. is co-sponsoring the United We Stand Fest. But all together, I mean, that is going to be a music explosion this summer all over California. But, we had to do the tour outside of California because you people in California get all your concerts all you want. So we got to do it outside of California so the other people actually get to hear some music.
Yeah, but all the good music starts in California and works its way inward. Just like fashion. Just like fashion. It starts on the coast, and like 6 months later, you get it in the Midwest. Not so much now. I'm just kidding.
The bad economy starts on the coast and makes its way to the Midwest, too.
It starts in New York. No, but that's... By the way, so I guess if you're putting this on, would you do me a favor? Would you just, next time you talk with Immortal Technique, tell him that he has an invite onto my show? I just haven't gotten around to getting to him yet. He's a very interesting character.
We'll do our best to do that.
Okay, perfect. So where do people get more information? You said it's an Indiegogo project. What's the easiest way or multiple ways where they can find it and perhaps throw a couple bucks down to maybe help the effort?
Yeah, Indiegogo.com, search Take Back Concert Tour. It's Indiegogo.com, P.A.N.D.A. Take Back Concert Tour. You can see the video. You can see some of the work that we've done in the past. And not only drop some money, but get some tickets at some pretty cheap prices. Right now, I mean, we have the deals, the bundles, they're all ready to go. If you're a sponsor, if you're a business, and you want to see your business broadcast all across the country or broadcast at one specific event, I mean, the amount of money that you have to pay to get your logo up on the front stage is an insanely cheap amount because a lot of this is volunteer, because a lot of people are putting a lot of effort into this without charging. It is really huge, and there's a lot of perks to get. We're putting out our first set of T-shirts in like 2 years. So we're having our own T-shirts, and we're all really excited about it. But yeah, Indiegogo.com, Take Back Concert Tour. Put your money down on the Take Back Concert Tour, Indiegogo.com. Really support this and change the music so we can change the culture.
You know, maybe I'll start an Indiegogo project to take out a graphic. How did you phrase that? There's so you can get your advertisement on the stage. Is that what you said? There's a way you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I could do an Indiegogo project to take out an ad that says "Happy Birthday, Brian." P.S. Wu-Tang Clan better sing "Happy Birthday." Yeah, maybe I like this. No, this is very cool, Dan. I think I've explained to you. Dan Johnson went to Bowling Green State University, and that's where I graduated from several years ago now. And I was the concert.
Were you gonna say a couple of weeks ago?
No, I was gonna say a couple of years ago, a couple of minutes ago, a couple of nanoseconds ago, a couple of beers ago, we could say. So a couple of beers ago, I was the concert director, and I helped bring in a sold-out show at our school's basketball arena. Sold 4,300 tickets. It was a $100,000 show, and that's kind of my background is concert production and promotion. So, yeah, this is really cool. Daniel-san, you are following in my footsteps, good sir. You are following in my footsteps in so many ways. Very proud of the work that you're doing. Keep up everything that you're up to. And let's maybe not wait another year before you're back on the program, but we'll definitely put the word out there. Make sure you're tagging us on Twitter so we can send out more information about your P.A.N.D.A. Take Back concert tour. And definitely invite Immortal Technique onto my show because he is a rad, interesting, cerebral character. So, Dan, thank you, sir. Any final words out the door?
Liberty.
Peace. And then he throws down. Can you literally throw down your microphone now? Say liberty. I'm kidding. Don't break your game.
Liberty, throw down. Have a good night, buddy.
Take care, Dan. There goes Dan Johnson from P.A.N.D.A. Unite. It's good stuff. Always good having Danny Boy on the program. I'm not going to play Fort Minor, but look up Fort Minor. The song is called Kenji, Kenji. Check out our homepage, thenewamericanmedia.com. Go on Facebook, search The New American Media with space in between, and like our page on Twitter. We're at American_media_, and subscribe to our youtube.com/The New American Media channel. We're going to be back in just a second. Actually, I think we're just going to hit reset and bring in Blake Wally, and we're going to go through the weekend news, the things that you may have missed. Stick around. Coming up now.
You are listening to The New American Media.